Hey everybody, welcome back to JT Channel and welcome to a little bit of a discussion about AEW All Out 2024. For those of you who saw my post, or didn't see my post for that matter, I did make a post recently where I said I wanted to do a couple of face videos to talk about all the stuff that's happened recently. And there are a couple of subjects that I want to put together in one big video, whereas with All Out, I really wanted to talk about it on its own because I feel like it's such a big picture thing, and it's not like the other subjects aren't big picture. But I feel like I'm going to be a lot more passionate with this discussion specifically because of how much I love pro wrestling. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. More specifically, the fact that a couple of like the moves in some of the early matches, the closing angle after the world's title match, and of course the main event, all kind of left a sour taste in some people's mouths, especially Swerve Strickland's. Am I right? All right, I'm sorry. So we're just going to kind of talk about it here, there, and everywhere. And I might get a little animated, angry, and I might swear a little. Yes, I swear in front of my daughter. This is not news, but just prepare yourselves because I have a lot to say on this subject. So for those of you who missed it or don't watch wrestling, basically AEW has this problem right now. It's what it is, where they have a huge show at the end of August, and then 2 weeks later, in early September, they have another pay-per-view. Maybe. And it's fine to have a pay-per-view 2 weeks apart, but the problem is the first one, the one in August, is called All In, and it's basically their biggest event of the year. For 2 years in a row, they've done it at Wembley Stadium. I think next year they're doing it at AT&T Stadium in Texas, which has like 100,000 seats or something. So it's their biggest event by far. And then 2 weeks later, they have another pay-per-view, smaller. It's usually in Chicago, yada, yada, yada. So this year, they decided that All Out was going to be the violence show, really. Even the matches that didn't have stipulations, they were doing like really dangerous moves off of the ropes and on the apron and on the floor. And a lot of people complain about that kind of stuff. And you're allowed to complain about it. That's fine. I'm not going to sit here and bitch about bitching. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But people are like, that's dangerous. You shouldn't be doing that. That's stupid. But they're pro wrestlers. They know what they're doing. Like, no offense to anybody out there. Like, if you're a hard worker like me, like I'm a mover, and believe it or not, that can be really hard sometimes. I've gotten hurt a lot. But if you're just sitting at home on your computer in your little chair and typing how dangerous it is, you don't know what you're talking about. I trained to be a pro wrestler for 7 months, and while I never took a pile driver, I took some wild ass moves. But as long as you and the other guy agree and practice and know what you're doing, it's fine. Is a pile driver from the second or top rope necessarily a smart move? Probably not. Poison Rana on the apron doesn't sound smart. Or, any number of an unprotected chair shot. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Obviously, that's not smart. But do you really think they use an actual, like, regular steel chair that you buy from Walmart? Again, I'm going to get passionate here. But yes, it is dangerous. I'm not going to lie. Some of those moves are dangerous as shit. And all that stuff happened at All Out. There were pile drivers off of ropes, and there were destroyers, and I think there was a Poison Rana on an apron. I might have made that up. Poison Ranas are dangerous inherently because they're a reverse Hurricane Rana. You flip somebody on the top or back of their head. And I think there's one off the top rope, and Will Ospreay just landed on his feet. So Will Ospreay's ridiculous. And of course, we'll talk about the chair shot here in a little bit. But a lot of people are very opinionated right now, especially about the main event. And that's kind of where I want to focus. I want to focus on the Bryan Danielson angle and the main event. The rest of the show was brilliant. The street fight between Statlander and Nightingale, I think, unfortunately, kind of got buried under all the stuff that Swerve and Hangman did, which was the point. That was the point. They were supposed to, because it's an unsanctioned match. That means AEW wiped their hands of it and were like, you guys do whatever you want. We're just going to turn our backs. Okay, go ahead. Woo! And, I didn't get all the way out of the camera there for the effect, but you get my point. They did this during the whole match. But throughout the show, excuse me, the weather's changing, so excuse my voice and clearing my throat and my nose. There was like dangerous spots, like I said, but the two things that get the most attention, which really I would like to bring just brief attention to, the splits spot from Statlander. I mean, thankfully she only got thumbtacks in her leg, but her was headed for thumbtacks. So dangerous spot too, and it ended with I think a tombstone on thumbtacks, and nobody's talking about it because of the main event. So the women can do it too. But after Bryan Danielson retained his title, his faction, the Blackpool Combat Club, turned on him, and Jon Moxley got a clear plastic bag and covered his head with it, tried to kill him like he was playing Manhunt. If you get that reference, we're friends. We are friends if you get the Manhunt reference. So that was like, what's the point of that? Like, that's attempted murder. Like, that's how people can kill people. We've seen it in TV shows and video games and whatnot. You take a plastic bag, suffocate. We don't know. I'm recording this video on Wednesday, so I'm sure there's a reason. It'll be an angle. But it's like a dangerous thing to do, but only if you keep it on for too long. I mean, all he had to do was let go. So, we'll see. Like, that's an angle. Like, oh, we tried to suffocate him, but we didn't actually. But why did we do it in the first place? But you get to the steel cage match, and this is where I start getting a little, I don't want to say pissed off, but just a little pissed off. Because there's people out there who are trying to, like, cancel AEW and cancel pro wrestling, and they're screaming, "That's not my wrestling!" And that's the thing. If you're screaming, "That's not wrestling," you really need to put "my" in there. That's not my wrestling, because it is wrestling. You, little Timmy, Tommy, Dick, Harry, Jimmy, Pissy Bob, you don't get to decide what is and isn't wrestling. Pro wrestling is whatever it wants to be. There's literally a wrestler in Japan that is just a doll, like a person-sized doll. And I've watched matches with this person-sized doll, and they're hilarious and they're fun. If WWE can use sports entertainment and we all just shrug our shoulders, then AEW can do the same thing from time to time. And when it comes to hardcore wrestling, violent, pro wrestling, everybody's tastes are going to differ. If it wasn't to your taste, it wasn't to your taste, and I'm not going to sit here and yell at you for that. That's fine. I have a varied taste in hardcore wrestling. Growing up in the 90s and 2000s, WCW and WWE had their hardcore division, their hardcore titles. I think WCW even had hardcore tag titles, and there's ECW. I went to an ECW show in 1999 or 2000, I'm not sure. I was born in 91, so the memory's kind of whoa. But I was 8 or 9, and I went to a local wrestling show, and I'm pretty sure it was ECW. I have this weird memory of a hardcore show when I was a kid. And that probably changed my life forever. I'm a hardcore wrestling fan. What happened in that cage match was wild, but I'm not going to say it wasn't for me. It was shocking, but that's what it was for. It was for shock value. These two, Swerve and Hangman, are in one of the most intense and believable blood feuds in a long time in pro wrestling. And some people go, "Oh, it's not believable at all." Okay, fine. You don't believe it. But put yourself in Hangman Adam Page's shoes. This man invaded your home and then stalked you. Like, what would you exactly do about that situation? You'd probably kill the person, right? Like, if it wasn't wrestling, if it was real life. I know there's those idiots. Those are mostly people who don't have a job and just sit in their mom's house that scream, "Oh, if he did that to me, I'd kill that man." Exactly. So Hangman Adam Page tried to kill Swerve Strickland, and Swerve Strickland was like, "Well, if he's going to try to kill me, I'm going to try to kill him." And people are like, "That's not wrestling." It is. It is pro wrestling. It's a really well done story. And Tony Khan decided, "Look, we're going to put you on a steel cage, but I got to wipe my hands of this after Hangman burned Swerve's house down." And you can't blame him for that. Like, would you want two of your employees ready to murder each other? If you could put them in a room together, you'd probably seal it off and turn your back and be like, "Whatever happens, happens, homies." So in my mind, this is like the right direction. And let's talk about the match in question, right? There was a cinder block that was used many times. I've seen the images. Like I said, pro wrestling is dangerous. Shut up about it already. There was a piece of wood from the burned down house that they tried to literally stab each other with. And then there was a needle full of God knows what that he just stuck in Swerve's mouth before the unprotected chair shot, the spot that everyone's really complaining about. Now, I don't know really where to start. Let's start with the comparisons between like AEW and WWE and the rest of the world. WWE has never done anything quite like that, but they have done worse stuff. Katie Vick, if you know, you know. If you don't know, Google is not your friend. I suggest never looking that name up. You had with the time that the Big Boss Man killed and cooked Al Snow's dog, the time that he strapped a chain to the Big Show's dead father's casket and drove away with it like it was a freaking Looney Tunes episode or something. You had the Kane, Lita, Gene Snitsky angle. I could go on and on. And of course, for those of you who don't know, there was once a pitched angle where Stephanie McMahon would be pregnant and the father would be her father, Vince McMahon. So WWE has been gross and horrible over the years. As far as their in-ring product, yeah, there hasn't been stuff quite like what we saw. We've seen John Cena thrown through a spotlight that exploded. Vince McMahon limo. Vince McMahon's limo. That's all I gotta say. Vince McMahon's limo. We've seen thumbtacks. We've seen fire. We've seen some stuff. The sledgehammer that broke over Vince McMahon's neck. It's not even that bad, but when I was a kid, I was like... And of course, all the Hell in a Cell stuff. We're getting Punk and McIntyre in Hell in a Cell. Anyway, ignore that. So WWE can get violent. Have they gone this far? No. But let's talk about each spot, each thing that they use. Let's talk about the cinder block first, right? At least they look like they used a real cinder block. Now that sounds like, oh, you want them to die. Whatever cinder block they used, however they gimmicked it, however they did it, it looked more realistic. Seth Rollins once curb stomped Dean Ambrose's head through a cinder block. Try that at home. I dare you. Get a friend, get a stupid friend, get them drunk. Ooh, let's do something stupid. And go ahead and stomp their head into a cinder block and let me know if it crumbles into pieces. That's not a thing. But WWE went there. WWE once hung the big boss man from the Hell in a Cell. Like, hello. And then there's the Tim White stuff. I'm very passionate. Y'all are killing me. There's people that get it, by the way. I'm not saying everyone's like this. There's people that understand. But the cinder block, right? They have to agree to do this. Tony gives the wrestlers a vague description from what I know, but for the most part, the wrestlers get to kind of say and do whatever they want to do with approval. So they had to get approved, and they got it all approved. The piece of wood from the house, I'll admit that was a little weird. I was like, is somebody a vampire? I don't know. It was fine. It was a piece of wood. You know, I've seen worse things in WWE. And I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm not. We can talk about ECW as well, really. And even WCW. Let's not talk about WCW. But the piece of wood, that's dangerous. Obviously, it was a sharp piece of wood. You can kill somebody with it. But obviously, the two biggest spots were the chair and the needle. We don't know what was in the needle. It was probably nothing, just like water or something, but it was probably meant to be a numbing thing to kind of numb his mouth, so he's like, I'm all groggy now. Something like that. I don't know. A local anesthetic of some kind. No one really said. He just pulled out a needle and stabbed him in the mouth. And then he was loopy as shit, sitting in the ring, and then unprotected chair shot. Like I said, do you really think it was just they went to Walmart, bought a chair, went in the ring, and... No, it's not how pro wrestling works, and that's what makes me upset. When the Shawn Spears, Cody Rhodes unprotected chair shot happened, Shawn Spears swung and like the top of the chair connected with Cody, not the middle. And that's important because what they'll do is they gimmick it. And you, as wrestling fans, you should know that. You should know that in 2024, we're not just grabbing any chair and just slamming people in the face. It's, yes, child. They most likely shaved it. That's what's called, shaving it, where you shave down the metal so it's a lot thinner, so it doesn't hurt nearly as much. By the way, if you see me doing this, it's because I have a touch thing going on right now. But most likely it was gimmicked to hell. It was probably shaved down and was meant to just fall apart. A really good way to talk about it is when me and my brother were growing up, we would wrestle, and we would take my dad's cookie sheets and just hit each other in the head. It didn't hurt. It felt like nothing. Now a chair would hurt. Well, I've never been hit in the head with a chair. I've been hit in the back. But a chair, a real chair, a regular ass steel chair from Lowe's or Walmart or something would probably hurt like hell. But if you made it thin enough where it was more like a cookie sheet, you probably barely feel it. So I don't see... You're odd. I don't see Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland being like, I wonder what CTE is like. And then just going, kablamo! And I don't want to hear from anybody in the comments being like, oh, well, AEW doesn't protect anybody. Look at all the massive, dangerous-looking moves that they've done over the years and how little injuries they've had. The injuries they have had, sure, they've come from some dangerousness, but for the most part, they're just freak accidents. The biggest and worst example, I just got spit on my screen, is when Dante Martin broke his leg with that destroyer out of the ring through a bunch of tables. That was super dangerous and super stupid. Looked cool as fuck. I like that kind of wrestling. I like wild wrestling. And then for the people that are like, this isn't for me, I'm never watching AEW again or pro wrestling again. Have you ever watched a single real death match? Not that AEW's Texas death matches aren't good. They're fantastic. I love them. But look up deathmatch wrestling on just YouTube. And you're going to see some things that are going to make you just sick to your stomach. You're going to scream. I almost said cream. Well, that's what some of us do when we watch deathmatch wrestling. I'm sorry. That was terrible. But you're going to scream. You're going to cry. You're going to vomit. I've seen some stuff. And parental advisory, trigger warning. I'm going to tell you some of the stuff I've seen. And if you can't if you're squeamish when someone talks about this stuff, stop this video here. Try to fast forward. I don't do the timestamps. So 3, 2, 1, here we go. So I've seen everything from like a weed whacker, like someone just took a weed whacker, turned it on, went bzz, into some guy's chest. I've seen people slammed onto boards with knives, blade up, not gimmicked, just slammed on them. I've seen, I watched this channel, shout out to Blako561. I started watching his channel because he does like breakdowns of matches. He does voiceovers while the match is going on and kind of walks you through the match. And he covers some gnarly ass shit. There's some incidences. I'm not going to ruin any of them for you, but there's arteries. That's what I couldn't think of it. Arteries and cut stuff have been cut in death matches. And they just finished the match. There's been multiple instances with some superstars. I've seen stuff where people have gotten a cut on their head or whatever, or even their back, and it's bleeding non-stop. Because deathmatch wrestling, they take that shit seriously. There's no gimmicks. There's no, oh, can I do this? It's, we're going to go in this ring, and we're going to grab every fucking thing that isn't nailed down and try to kill each other. And somebody's going to get a uno, dos, tres. And that's just how it is. There's death matches where the whole ring, the entire ring, is surrounded, covered, taped, light tubes everywhere. Is that safe? No. Do they do it? Yes. Is it badass? Absolutely. I could go on and on about deathmatch wrestling, but that's the thing. People like the ones watching this that could handle Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland are desensitized because of WWE's PG era. And there was recently, they announced that Raw is going to 2 hours. There are people out there that didn't know Raw has ever been 2 hours, so there's definitely people out there who have never seen Cactus Jack versus freaking Onita, or Funk versus Onita. Some of my favorite matches ever involve Onita. O-N-I-T-A. Type those 5 letters into YouTube and write deathmatch after it. Onita, deathmatch, and call me from the hospital because you're going to pass out. There's AEW did the exploding barbed wire death match. Look up real ones from Japan. And this is my point. The reason I'm bringing all this up is because, again, you can't say that's not wrestling. I can't say that's not wrestling. Jim Bob Joe down the street can't say that's not wrestling. Donald Duck, who's on my TV right now, cannot say that's not wrestling. Pro wrestling is whatever is on the screen in a pro wrestling environment, a sports entertainment environment, whatever. You could say it's not wrestling, it's more fighting or for entertainment, but no matter what, if the word wrestling is in it, it's wrestling. All Elite Wrestling had a lights out unsanctioned match inside a steel cage. There was a cinder block used, there was a fucking syringe used, there was an unprotected chair shot. It's still wrestling. AEW is not trying to injure people. If that was the only company that tried to hurt people, you're not going to like to hear this, so cover your little ears, was WWE. Sorry, I had to take care of something. But yeah, WWE is the only company, and WCW probably, that sat there and was like, yeah, hit each other with chairs, hit each other with this, set each other on fire. I don't give a shit. AEW knows what they're doing. And I know a lot of you are going to go, But it's true. Like, they wouldn't let these guys do this shit if they didn't trust them. And I think Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland are probably two of the most trustworthy people in the pro wrestling world. If I was told that tomorrow I have to go to a show and wrestle Swerve Strickland in a last man standing match, I'd do it. Swerve would be like, hey, I'm going to pick you up and throw you out of the ring and you're going to fall through a glass. Cool, I'll fall through some glass. I bet it's going to be gimmicked. I bet I'm going to be fine. So you can't just see a cinder block, a piece of wood, a syringe, and unprotected chair shot and start screaming in the comments because you don't know what you're talking about. Like, we know about CTE and stuff now, but do you really think they used a regular steel chair, a non-gimmick steel chair in 2024 with everything we know? You really think that? Come on. I know there's a group of idiots, and I know you think you're like a majority, but you're really not. There's like maybe 1,000 of you, and compared to how many people actually like this stuff, enjoy this stuff, etc., you're the fucking minority. You all think that, yes, they're trying to hurt people. Tony Khan's trying to kill wrestlers. He doesn't give a shit. Blah, 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 blah. I once saw a comment that somebody thought that he was the one that killed Luke Harper. Go fuck yourself. Tony Khan is not... No, okay? He knows what he's doing. You may not like his stories. You may not like the kind of wrestling AEW does. I do. I happen to love all kinds of pro wrestling. It's fine with him. I love flippy dippy doo-dah nonsense. I love squash matches. I love women's wrestling. I love hardcore wrestling. I like goofy wrestling. I like sports entertainment. I like deathmatch wrestling. I like it all. Okay? All of it. There's no wrestling I've seen that I don't like. Except bra and panties matches. Those can... Woo! Never see those again. Anyway, that is my rant about All Out. It was a fun show from beginning to end. It was a good show from beginning to end. That's it. It's that simple. All the matches were good in their own right. Okay? The closing angle of the world's title match was a little weird, but we're going to find out what the hell it was about. And the main event, if it wasn't for you, then it wasn't for you. It's that goddamn simple. Okay? If you want to scream and curse about it, do what I'm doing. Make a video. Make people listen to you. Otherwise, shut up. Just shut up. No one cares what you have to say from your father's basement on your little computer that probably can't even run Doom. Okay? Screaming about it on the internet isn't going to change it. Just don't watch it and go, ugh. I think put out a little tweet, since you're probably sucking Elon Musk's musky little... Anyway, just type out, man, that wasn't for me. And then move on with your life. What the hell do you get from screaming at people like me on the internet? That last part was a little personal. But anyway, I apologize if this wasn't for you. Like I said, I tried to warn you guys before I got into the gory, goofy, grubby stuff. Check out Blako561. I'll tag him in the description. Like I said, he reviews deathmatch wrestling. He reviews really, really violent stuff. There's no censorship whatsoever. He swears like a fucking sailor, so more power to him. I do too. And he shows everything from these matches and some of the aftermath, some of the before. So if you decide to go to his channel and check him out, just be prepared. Parental advisory, 100%. I'm trying to do more wrestling stuff, but it's just hard, like I said, with my work schedule. I didn't even watch All Out like completely. I've had to see bits, pieces, skits, reviews, little clips here and there, but I know what happened, and yeah. I'm looking forward to what's next for AEW. I guess Swerve's been written off TV. I sure fucking hope so. So what's next for Hangman? What's next for Danielson? What's next for the BCC, Moxley, all that stuff? So that's my wife coming in, and here comes my dog. But that's it for now. Like I said, I apologize for getting a little heated there, but like I said, I'm very passionate about this subject because, one more time, I have to repeat myself as many times as I can. You, me, the guy down the street, the TV characters on the screen, we do not get to say what is and isn't pro wrestling. It's all pro wrestling. You just may not like what happened, all right? That's all. That's my 2 cents in it. A 25-minute video, and I said that's all I have to say. But until next time, like I said, I've got more videos to put out. This is it for today, but I guess that's it. I screwed up my own outro. Until next time, this is JT Channel. I am JT, and we will see you then.